Welcome to Our Girl Relationships. We talk about the problems people face in their day-to-day lives. Let's start with the video. I'm a 25-year-old female. My mother, 50, met my dad, 52, when they were in their mid-20s through their families as they went to the same church. Their families were extremely conservative and have basically set them up to get an arranged marriage. Being young, immature, and not doing the right thing to do, they started going out and got married when they were about 25, as both of them wanted to get their education and careers in line before jumping into marriage and having kids. My parents got married and they believed that the next right step to take was to have children, and so my mom gave birth to me. By that point, my parents had left the small town they lived in all their lives, surrounded by extremely conservative people, and moved into the city because my dad had gotten a job with a better pay here. Here, my parents make new friends, blend into a different environment, and reevaluate their values and beliefs. By the time I was 5, my parents both realized that they were not meant to be together and wanted different things in life. They came to the conclusion that they were only together due to the pressure that their parents put on them, and at that point they were stable enough to not have a care about what my grandparents had to say about them. My parents split and within a year had moved in with their new partners. My dad met an amazing woman, let's call her Lexi, and my mom got with her new husband, Stephen. Along with Stephen came my stepsister, Alina. Well, Lexi tried her very best to make me feel like home since the very first day I had met her. With time, she took over a lot of the things that my mother did to me, and I think this gave my mum a pass to just let me go. She did not abandon me or neglect me. Stephen and her acted as decent parents to me, but they had an undeniably closer relationship with my stepsister, which I could never figure out why. Alina was a lot like me in the matters of looks, intelligence, and everything. But I guess my mom wanted a completely fresh start and wanted to forget me in the past. Years went by, and my relationship with my mom kept deteriorating as she made sure to show me that she picked my stepsister over herself. She skipped every school event that I had participated in, and hell, she also skipped my graduation for one of Alina's theater performances where she played a minor role. Things continued like this, and at this point, Lexi and I had gotten closer than ever. She never tried to be my mother and always said that she was just someone who wanted to look out for me. She and my dad are the ones who always attended my activities and were always there by my side to support me. They were so kind, and that they always made sure that I called my mom and my stepdad to these events so it wouldn't be disrespectful to them. After graduation, I stopped visiting my mom except for during vacations, and we would stay in contact by calling each other during the times when it was obligatory. I met my fiancé Chris during my second year of grad school, and we started going out by the time we were in the last year of college. The contact with my mom had stayed about the same at this point. I often watched my mom post pictures of my sister, my stepdad, and her during the holidays with captions that talked about how happy she was with her family. This was kind of heartbreaking to me, but I would then remind myself of the amazing support Lexi and my dad provided to me. My mother didn't even bother to do so. Well, my mother hasn't met Chris yet, but knows of him as my stepsister probably talked about him to her by stalking my social media. My mother and I still stay in contact, calling every once in a while. These calls are honestly pointless, as all my mom ever talks about is my stepdad and sister. But hey, that's a completely different story. Anyways, Chris and I get engaged about 6 months ago, and I'm on top of the moon. Chris is a person who values family deeply, so we decided to plan an engagement party at a restaurant close by where my family and Chris would be present. I am excited to announce that we have taken the next step of our love and was so happy that this will help me get closer to Chris's family and perhaps even my mom, as I believe she would be excited to be the bride's mom. The day of the party arrives and I'm very happy. We send invites to my dad, my stepmom, my mom, Alina and stepdad, Chris's family, and our friends. My mother seemed extremely happy when I announced the engagement to her and promised that she would be there. Well, I did not hold her to her promise, but thought that she would at least have that much love for me that she would not ditch me on an occasion which I believed was very special to my heart. Well, the party starts and everyone is on time. We start chatting, and even though I'm having a good time, I try to find my mother. I call her, shoot her a text, but there's no response. I even call my stepdad, who does not answer. It had been 3 hours now when I realized they weren't going to show up, so we went ahead with the announcement. Although I was happy, but also felt a sense of sadness take over me as everyone around me kept asking for my mom. Well, the party ended and my mom called me the next day. I thought it was to apologize, but nope. She wanted to vent about her precious daughter. I stayed quiet to see if there's an actual valid reason as to why she did not show up at the party, and I was shocked. She tells me that my stepsister got broken up with for the first time by her boyfriend, who she had been in a relationship with for a month, and she was devastated. My mom shows my stepsister all the sympathy in this world and refuses to even acknowledge my engagement. My sadness turned into anger at that point, and she asked me, "So, how did your little party go?" It took every bit of me to not let out my anger onto her. I told her it was all right, and I hung up. Well, this conversation put me in my senses as I recalled everything my mother had ever done for me, or I should say, everything my mother did not do for me. I just avoid talking to my mother and work on planning my wedding. Lexi has been an amazing help, and honestly, I feel happy that she's there for me instead of my mom. My wedding date is set to be 6 months from now, and I started to send away invitations for the same. Somehow, I let my anger take over me as I was writing out an invite to my mother. I was not ready to invite her, but as my dad and fiancé insisted, I was going to. Well, I don't know what took over me, but I wrote her a 2-page letter where I went on about how much she had hurt me, everything that she did that hurt me, and how I never wanted to hear from her again. Surprisingly, I even got myself to send the letter away. I knew my mother was going to blow up, so I sat my fiancé down and told him everything because I could not keep it to myself. I do the same thing with my dad, and they both seemed to be upset at me. They told me that although they agreed that my mom wasn't the best person, she was the one who raised me, and I should respect that. Currently, everyone seems to be against me except for my stepmom. I feel conflicted, even though I think what I did wasn't wrong. AITA for sending my toxic mom a letter explaining how she is a terrible mother instead of the wedding invite that she is probably expecting. Reading all your comments opened my eyes to how terribly I was truly being treated by my mom. I decided to talk to my husband once again, so I sat him down and showed him this post. Reading all your comments and advice helped him a lot to understand my perspective. He told me that he let his family values and the way he was brought up influence his judgment, even though our backgrounds are very different. I tell him that I would need to see his actions to be able to forgive him, and he tells me that he will try his best to be a better partner. Well, I hadn't heard from my mom and thought she didn't even bother to read the letter, but oh boy, I was at my dad's house as I was spending time with him and Lexi. We were having a good time as I heard a knock on the door. I wish I didn't open it as I saw my mom and my stepsister standing there. They barge inside as they call my dad, and he rushes into the same room as us to see what the noise is all about. He is greeted by my mom's loud yelling. She goes on to throw a fit about how she thought his wife would raise me better than to be a brat, and she thought that she would at least teach me to be a respectful, well-mannered child like Alina. I look at my dad and Lexi, who are obviously dumbfounded and upset at my mom's entitlement. Looking at them made me blow up at my mom, and I decided to give her a piece of my mind. A lot of yelling and screaming takes place as my dad and Lexi stand there. Being people who avoided confrontation at all costs, this situation made them anxious. I was too much like them until this point. I felt like something had taken over me. I believe it was my younger self letting out all the frustrations I had kept to myself all these years. I kicked my mother and stepsister out of my house, while leaving my stepsister threatens me that she will make sure that I have the worst wedding. Funny that she thinks that I even considered inviting her at this point. Nothing really happened in the past few months. I would get the occasional text from my mother, my stepsister, and some of my mom's side of the family berating me and calling me a horrible daughter. It used to hurt, but I don't really care anymore. My dad apologized to me for trying to force a relationship between me and my mother all these years, telling me that he only wanted to better the relationship between me and my mother. I just accepted his apology because at that point I wanted to put everything regarding my mom behind my back. After reading all of your comments, I also realize how much Lexi has truly done for me. Not even right now, but ever since I was that young, scared 5-year-old, that she has done things for me more than my mother ever did. Even for the wedding planning, she was the one who helped me the most, even more than some of my friends. She had become more like the actual mother of the bride than my mother ever did. As for my stepsister's comment, she did indeed try to ruin my wedding. Her actions have caused me to get a restraining order against my mom and my sister. To make the entire story short, she tried to break into my house. I really have no understanding as to why, but she did. Apparently because she wanted to ruin my wedding dress. I thought it was pretty stupid that she tried to do that when me and my husband were at home, but according to her, she thought we had left the house. She had been stalking us and had mistaken us leaving the house with 2 friends of mine who left the house after grabbing dinner with us. I was horrified when we caught her and decided to get a restraining order before anything. My wedding is in about 2 months now. And with this restraining order, I feel like I can finally enjoy my wedding with ease. Cutting off my mother is like the best gift I gave myself for this wedding. Thank you all for your support and helping me stand up for myself. Your NTA. Mom seems like she's trying to get rid of you because she associates you with her past. This is some real a-hole behavior. Please cut off your mom and your fiancé, and dad can leave too if they cannot support your decision. NTA, the stepmother sounds like a better person than both parents combined. OP's dad needs to put respect aside and stand up for OP. Same thing goes for the fiancé. I'm a woman in my 20s and my boyfriend is in his 20s, and we've been together for 2 years now and have an amazing relationship that I wouldn't trade for the world. Recently, I discovered I was pregnant. His ex, 20s, female, from before me, has had a lot of trouble letting go of their past relationship. Shortly after they broke up, she found out she was pregnant. She ended up losing the baby during pregnancy and has never really quite recovered from that. My boyfriend was supportive during her pregnancy, although he made it clear to her that he didn't want to rekindle things between them just because they were going to be parents. After she lost the baby, he was there for her emotionally, but slowly had less and less contact with her because she kept pushing him to be in a relationship again, which he didn't want. My boyfriend and I have been really excited about my pregnancy, and after the initial ultrasounds, we took to social media to share our happiness with family and friends that we aren't able to see or talk much to. I made a public post, and in the comments, an old coworker said congrats and asked if my daughter was happy. I was confused because I don't have a daughter, but then realized I do post a lot of photos of my 3-year-old niece, so I assumed maybe she thought she was mine as well. I replied and said, "This is actually our first child together. The other photos on my profile are of my beautiful niece." Later that evening, I received a text from my boyfriend while he was at work that his ex saw our posts and the comments and were cussing him out via Messenger and calling me a heartless bitch for saying that this was our first child, considering he had another baby with her. She said I was disrespecting the baby they lost together because that was technically his first child. I told him that what I actually said was that this was our first child together and that I meant it as the first time the two of us as a couple made a baby together. She ended up messaging me and cussing me out too. I told her I was just excited and was trying to explain to someone else that I didn't have another child already. She called me heartless again and demanded I delete the entire post and make a new one clarifying that this was my first child but not his. This angered me, and I told her I was absolutely not going to do that, and that even though I sympathized with her over what happened, that I deserved to celebrate my pregnancy without having to tiptoe around her feelings. She's now making me out to be an a-hole for this and crucifying me all over social media with all her friends and family agreeing that I'm an awful person. I just wanted to be happy about this and enjoy my pregnancy with my boyfriend, whom I love more than anything. But now I'm thinking, maybe I was wrong. Should I just remove the post altogether? NTA, this may be a controversial opinion, but your boyfriend does not have another child. He never had another child. A miscarriage is absolutely traumatizing, speaking from personal experience, so don't come for me. But the baby died before it was born. She and your boyfriend never got the chance to be parents. He has zero experience as a father. Her grief is understandable, but not your problem, and you're right not to cater to it. I know for a lot of women who lose babies before birth, it can be comforting to still consider themselves mothers, but the truth of the matter is that the child never lived. She can't force your boyfriend to consider himself a parent to a child he never met and never parented. That's his choice alone. He may not consider himself a father to any child but the one you're going to have together, which is how it sounds from his reaction since he does not agree with her. And it's absolutely not her place to make that determination for him. Her grief does not come with him or his feelings as a package deal. Everyone advising you to block her everywhere is right. Adjust your privacy settings, but leave your post as is. NTA, do not give in to her jealousy and crazy. However, you do need to carefully block her, her friends, her family, and anyone else who is pestering you from all of your social media. And if the boyfriend hasn't blocked her, he should too. When you post, make sure you've excluded anyone who doesn't need to have these personal details about you. There is no reason for her to be involved in your lives anymore, especially considering her behavior. If her friends and family loved her, they'd be encouraging her to put the old boyfriend in the past, get the therapy she needs to deal with the miscarriage, and getting her to move forward in a positive way.